said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. And oh, I'd love to see him.
Hey folks, this is Ron with On Fire Concerts, and this is our May artist interview. Today I am here with country music legend and superstar Jimmy Fortune. Jimmy, thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Ron.
It's an amazing thing with sitting next to someone that's a Grand Ole Opry, Country Music Hall of Fame member, Gospel Hall of Fame member, Virginia Hall of Fame member.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, and of course with the Statler Brothers for many years,
Right.
and we're just so honored to have you today with us, and we're just going to go over a few questions about your career. And,
Well, Ron, I'm glad to be here with you. I really am. This has been like you said, it's kind of been a fairy tale career for me. From where I came from in Virginia, I didn't think anything was ever going to happen. You know, at that point, I mean, I was playing music all the time. Music was kind of running my life. I was playing music 6 nights a week, 4 hours a night for a lot of years. And I had 2 daytime jobs, and I thought, 65 years old, I'd probably be in a standing on stage at a Holiday Inn somewhere still, because I knew that's how much I loved it. But I just never thought I'd get a break like the Statler Brothers. But that's what it takes for people. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. Sometimes
just have to
you have to get that break.
keep trying.
And
You know, I know that when Lou of the Statler Brothers, of course, he became ill with Crohn's, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe it said I have read where he had heard you performing in a ski lodge and recommended you come to Nashville to audition for his place with the Statler Brothers.
Right. I had a night off in Thanksgiving 1981, the night before Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving night. Of all things, I was invited to a jam session. It was at a place called Wintergreen, Virginia, and of all things, I just took my night off and went up there and to sit in with them and jam. And Lou DeWitt happened to be there that night. And he was one of my heroes. I loved Lou. I used to listen to the Statler Brothers all the time. I knew all their hits that were on the radio. And I met him that night, and he was so nice to me. And I did some like Orbison songs and some John Denver stuff and just some of the cover songs that I usually do. And he told me that he really liked my singing and everything, and I said, well, you know, I met one of my heroes. This is awesome. It doesn't get any better than this. And I said I'd probably never hear from him again, you know. But then Christmas time that year, I get a call from the Statler Brothers, and I didn't know that Lou suffered from Crohn's disease, but he was going to be out for about 6 months. And when they asked him who he thought could fill in for him, he threw some names out there, but I was one of the first names out of his mouth to hey, as a kid I heard across the mountain, his name is Jimmy Fortune. I think if y'all give him a chance, you know, I think he could do it if y'all would, you know, if you want to take a chance on him.
You have got that voice, though, that it's like I was telling someone, there's a few artists come along, and you and I were talking earlier about one, Ricky Van Shelton was one, but there's a few artists that come along that when you turn the radio on and you hear them singing, you don't have to ask, who is that?
Yeah.
You know that's Jimmy Fortune singing,
Right,
you know?
right.
But I mean, to be part of the Statler Brothers, and when you became a full member, prior to that, though, were you a member? I mean, were you a fan? I guess follower of the Statler Brothers?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're from Virginia, you knew about the Statler
Brothers,
and they were just bigger than life, and so yeah, I mean, I listened to them. I listened to all kinds of music anyway. That's kind of was my background because I played clubs and things, so you had to do cover music, so you had to do a little bit of everything, and I loved it all. But country music, man, I followed the Statler Brothers. They were right there on top, you know, and they were everything they did. I just, you know, fell in love with it because it was, to me, the Statler Brothers were almost like country gospel Americana before Americana was even Americana. And so I just loved them, and I loved their music was nostalgic. It was historic. It was, you know, it was so many things that it covered. And then the harmonies, and their roots went back to gospel music with the quartets and things like that. It was what they were built on. So, you know, for them to give me a call, for me to get to go over and audition, when I auditioned for the Statlers, I didn't know that I would get the job. I went to Harold's house, we sang around the piano, and while I was singing, the first song we sang was Amazing Grace around the piano. And I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? I'll have something to tell my grandkids one day that I actually got to sing around the piano with the Statler because I didn't think they were going to hire me and they were going to call me back, you know. But I was so happy about that. I was satisfied with it, you know. And then a couple of weeks went by and they called me to come and audition again here in Nashville. So.
And it's an amazing career you have with them. I mean, 21 years or so.
Almost 21 years.
And when they retired, or actually when you first joined them and became a full-time member, the Stattlers had a lot of hits over the years, and I think they had one number one at that point. And you come on, and then you end up writing like 3 number ones for the group.
Right.
And plus the song that I like, that's always touched me, and I'm sure a lot of others, is More Than a Name on the Wall.
Right. It wasn't a number one song. It was a top I think it was top 5 maybe.
Yeah.
And there were 2 stations that wouldn't play that song because they said it was controversial. Otherwise, it kept it from going number one. I would have had another number one song. And I think about that a lot. I say, how in the world could a song like that be controversial or whatever? But but since then, I've been told by many veterans who come up to me and thank me for that song because it was a God thing. It was God gave me that song for the veterans, I think, because it was a healing song. And a lot of things about that time started to change, and people started to change the way they thought and the way about Vietnam and about everything that went along with that. Because these guys fought just like everybody else did for our country, for our freedom, and that was my heart, felt that, and I realized going to the Vietnam Memorial and seeing a mother come there that behind each of these names there were 60,000 names on that wall. And a mother gave birth to that child that went off to school for the first time and eventually off to war and never coming home. And I mean, there's so much more than just a name on the wall.
There is, and that song for the veterans, and all veterans love that and appreciate it.
Well, it's the least I could do. I never had to go serve. I wanted to, but as things worked out, matter of fact, it was about a month before the Statler Brothers called me to come and audition. I had gone and applied for the Air Force, and I had taken all the tests and everything, and the guy came to me and he said, "Look, I had 3 kids at the time," and he said, we'd like to have you, but you got 3 kids and you can't, we can't take you. I really wanted to serve my country, and so I got turned down, and I was disappointed, but then the Statler Brothers hired me, and I was like, well, this is where God wants me to go. And so whenever I got a chance to say thank you to our veterans, I said it's the least I could do.
Oh, you contribute even though you're not in the military.
Right.
The support of the military is amazing. I mean, I think that's appreciated more than people that, like yourself, that goes and supports them.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much the veterans and the active members do appreciate the little things like that.
I've heard so many stories, and one of the ones that touched me the most are when they come up to me and I'll grab their hand and they can't say anything. It's just tears coming down.
Right.
And I'll just say thank you for your service, and I know what you're trying to say. And that just touches my heart in such a big way because, I mean, I know the sacrifice that's been made for this country by what's happened and what I've seen over the years, but these men and women need to be thanked and need to be put on a big pedestal. The ones that have given their all for us, they say they're our fallen heroes. I say they're still standing tall. In my heart, in my mind, they will always be standing tall.
They are the reason we do what we do, and without them, we don't.
And I hope we never take it for granted. I do, because if we take it for granted, this country, and I see a lot of people that do take it for granted, and it breaks my heart, really.
It's you hate to say it this way, and I'm one of these people that it just says what's on my mind.
I do too.
When you see someone burning a flag, for example, if you don't like here, leave.
Well, that's the way I see it, and
too many people fought and died for us to be able to do what we do, and to give even these people.
Someone died for me who who didn't even feel the way I feel. But he died for me to be who I am, to believe what I believe. And those people did that for us. And all of them did. And it was like, am I going to look at that and say that was nothing? No.
No,
I'm not. This is the greatest country on earth. It really is, because of those people.
And that's why, like you said, that's why it is.
Exactly.
And I know during your career, you have had the privilege, and I guess it would be an amazing honor and privilege to meet two different presidents, President Reagan and President Bush.
Yep, we got to go to the White House, and we actually started the DARE program with President Reagan and Nancy Reagan, the First Lady. And on a few occasions we got to get together with them. We got to go out to LA and be with them on a big gala that they did out there with a lot of the actors and actresses in Hollywood and a lot of folks in country music. And I found myself in the early 80s, after I'd been with the Statler Brothers for a little while, standing out there with those people I've been seeing on TV and stuff, and meeting the president at the White House in the Oval Office and talking to him, and him treating me like I was, like he'd known me, forever, and being so nice. And I really had to pinch myself, because it was like stuff was happening so fast that I couldn't believe it, And back then you didn't have a cell phone where you could take a selfie, or you could. They took pictures of us, but we had those pictures. But I would like to have been texting my dad and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing right now," or my mom, and I had to go back home and tell them, after it all happened and everything. But and that was exciting that I got to do that. But there's just things that happened so fast that I couldn't believe.
It's amazing that the way people like presidents, like you were saying, treat you, and how you in turn pass that on by treating other people the same.
Well, I've always felt this way about our presidents. It goes back to my family. My mom and dad said, it doesn't matter who's president, even if you didn't vote for him, you pray for him, and you say, that's our president, and the people of the United States voted. This is the way it is. And I pray for our presidents, all of them, I don't care who they are, that they succeed and that they do the right thing. And it's, it's kind of sad to see today that there's so much division. There's so much one group of people against another group of people. And when
it should be about us.
We should be, it should be about the people.
Yeah.
And it should be about what's best for them. And it's, we're a polarized nation.
We are.
Much. And I pray for our country every night, and that we will, what's wrong what's wrong with living like Jesus wants us to live? What's wrong with that?
There is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's why we should live,
Right.
But we've put the company strays from that, and it's artists such as yourself, and that the little things matter that you do, and people you touch. If you touch one person, that's one more.
That's one more.
And I guess with the meeting the presidents, what would be your biggest? What are you most proud of? I guess that you did accomplish while you were with the Statler Brothers.
Well, the thing I'm most proud of are moments like that, and I got to meet just about all my heroes. But one of the things I'm most proud of is that the Statler Brothers, well, they were about God, family, and country. And that's the way it was. And they did that through their whole career. They never ventured from that. So whenever I learned that lesson, and I promised God that whatever I did with my career, because I was, a little bit younger than they were, and of course they asked me what I was going to do, and I said, I don't know of anything else to do other than what I do. And they told me, they gave me some good advice. They said, just go out and be yourself, and that people would accept that. And so that's what I did. And I've kept God, family, and country at the forefront, because I promised God that whatever I did with my career, it would be something that my mom and dad would be proud of, that my children would look at one day and say, hey, my dad stood for something. He knew that our world and our country was going in a bad direction, and he tried his best to steer it back in the right direction through, not by beating people over the head with, but by trying to be an example with my music and my life, and not to say that I've been perfect all my life, because
Right,
I haven't. I'm just like,
none of us have been.
you know, because that's why I thank God for forgiveness, and that a man can turn around his life if he's willing to let God help him, and with His help, you know,
Definitely.
He's done everything, and He's taken me to places that I never dreamed of. Because it's like I'm not in control of it. I'm not driving this car. It's like
Right.
like somebody else is like,
It's like
you know,
it's, you
is
know,
driving, and I'm just along for the ride.
Mhm.
And He takes me to places. As long as as long as you're doing what I want you to do and I ask you to do, I'll take care of you. And that's what He's done.
And you know, at times I learned the hard way that sometimes you think you're all alone, but when you get through it and the smoke clears and you look back and say, you weren't alone because you couldn't do that by yourself. You know,
No, I look back at Elizabeth being the first song that I ever wrote. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, I never wrote a song before. All of a sudden, I take them Elizabeth one day, and they said, well, that's going to be on our first album, and it goes #1. It's #1 song of the year. I was songwriter of the year for that song, and I'm like sitting there going, wow.
First song I ever wrote.
And right immediately, I just thank God. I said, you know, I know it's not me, Lord, it's you. And then My Only Love comes along. It happens, and Too Much on My Heart, and then More Than a Name on a Wall, and some others that were top 10 songs, and
They just keep coming.
And then after, you know, going on a solo career, some of the songs like I Believe and On the Other Side, these are songs that God gave me that.
On the Other Side's an amazing song.
Yeah, these are songs that come from human things that happen to all of us, that we lose a loved one or someone that's close to us, or
We relate to them,
Yeah.
and can understand why they were written.
and these are songs that it's like God said, here, I want to give you this song because I want someone to. These are people that I want to hear this song
Right.
for comfort, to let them know that I'm here. Let them know that someone feels the same way they feel. Someone's been through it, so I want to help you through it. And that God is there, and He's always will be. He's always been there.
And gonna always be there.
And if it wasn't for that and my faith, I couldn't survive.
You couldn't do it on your own.
No.
You know, we can't.
And I don't. And like I said, I'm sitting here after 17 years of Statler Brothers retiring, the most awarded act in the history of country music. And I'm sitting here with a 17-year career going, and probably stronger than I've ever gone as far as on my solo career.
We were talking, you know, earlier, and before I get to that, let me ask about Elizabeth. Because I found this humorous. You may know a friend of mine, and I'm going to throw his name out because, you know, Ken Shelton
Ken Shelton.
with Cat Radio. He's interviewed you a few times.
I know Ken, yeah.
He had told me a story, and but about Elizabeth, you was something about Elizabeth Taylor and Elizabeth.
Well, we were going on the road. This was back, I hadn't been with the Statler Brothers too long. And usually I stop off at the grocery store to get some, you know, snacks for the bus or whatever to take on the bus. Well, I was going through the grocery store, and there was this little girl in a shopping cart, and her mom pushing her around. Well, this little girl was getting into everything. I mean, she was pulling stuff off the shelves, and her mom was saying, "Now, Elizabeth, stop it, Elizabeth, you can't do that." And so I'm going through the store, and I'm hearing her say that. Until I go out of the store, she's getting on that little girl, you know. I thought it was the cutest thing. And so I get on the bus, and of course I got that name going through my head. I had a melody already in my head.
Right.
And we're on our way to Tulsa, Oklahoma to do a concert there, and then to go to Oklahoma City after that. And so on the way there, they pull out this movie Giant with Elizabeth Taylor. And so had never seen the movie before. And I fell in love with Elizabeth Taylor in that movie. It was Rock Hudson, James Dean. It was just some of it was filmed in Virginia, so it kind of,
Hometown,
had that connection with over in Charlottesville areas where it was filmed, and then part of it was in Texas. And so I just thought it was a great movie, and I just loved her. I thought she was beautiful in the movie. And we go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're doing a concert there, and this beautiful young lady comes up out of the audience, and she's reaching up to me, and she had the prettiest eyes, you know, and I went up to her, and she grabbed my hand, and when she grabbed my hand, she wouldn't let go. She just kept looking at me going, "I'm Elizabeth! I'm Elizabeth!" And, and it just hit me. I said, and I told her, I said, I know, and I'm going to write a song about you. Like that. And sure enough, I went back to the hotel room that night, and because I asked the guys, I said, if I write a song, would y'all record it? And Harold, he said, well, little buddy, if you write a song, yeah, we'll record it if it's good enough.
If
and
it's
I
good
thought,
enough.
well, and this is why I said that it was a God thing, because I had 2 tape recorders, and I went into the bathroom, because it's got the reverb in there, right, so you can hear. I recorded it after I wrote it into one recorder, and then I played it and sung the part on top of it into the next recorder, and I kind of bounced those things back and forth and put the parts on there. So when I went in to play it for the Statler Brothers, this is a song I wrote last night, and here it is, and I played it. They sat there and listened to it, and they said, well, that's going to be on our first record with you, and I was so happy, I thought, wow. And I knew that the harmony was beautiful. I knew the melody was it was infectious. It was something that you couldn't get out of your mind. And then Elizabeth also, it was like these little things that God puts into your mind and your heart. I think that. And how many people do you know has someone in their life named Elizabeth? 2 or 3 people in their family. I mean, everybody knows somebody named Elizabeth. Everybody. And so. I knew that if we could do it and get it out there, it would be so contagious. And being, having a vehicle like the Statler Brothers at the time, one of the biggest acts out there at the time, to get that song out there, I knew it was a possibility that people might all of a sudden, like that song. And they did, and they still do. I had a woman came up to me some years back, and she said, I want you to know my husband left me for an Elizabeth. And I thought, man, she's going to chew me out. And she said, but you know what? I still love that song. I said, well, there you go.
You did me a favor.
Yeah.
No, I had heard the story that Elizabeth Taylor had thought.
Well, we went to, the song had been a hit, and we didn't know at the time, she just loved it. But she was in old Tucson, Arizona shooting Poker Alice, was a movie. And we were there to do a show, and her management saw that we were there, so they called up and said, it's her birthday. Why don't y'all come over and sing to her happy birthday, and maybe you can sing that song. And so we sang, went over there and met her, and she's really sweet, really good, really sweetheart. And those beautiful blue eyes, I mean, you could just, you knew why she was who she was.
Right.
And sang happy birthday to her, and then when we sang happy birthday, Harold said, and we wrote this song just for you. And buddy, I was sitting there going the whole time. I said, well, it ain't really exactly, but her name is Elizabeth, so I'm going with it.
So we're going to roll with it.
Yeah, I'm rolling with it. And so I guess she thought it was really written for her. But, her name was Elizabeth, so I guess kind of let it stay there.
I'm not going to tell Elizabeth Taylor.
No, I'm not going to tell Elizabeth Taylor. It wasn't written exactly for you, but.
You had done, when you left the Stattlers and you branched out on your own, I know you had done a number of albums from like 2003 to present actually, but
yeah,
you in 2013 you were on a project with T. Graham Brown working on a building.
Yeah.
I have had the honor and privilege of working with T in concert on a number of occasions, and we actually one coming up. But he was telling me about that project, and that's an amazing.
It was, and it was something that Marty Rabin, of course, was on it. T. Graham, and myself, and Trace Adkins was on that song and that video, and was building churches. About building churches and raising money for building churches, and it was such a. I forget how many churches were built because of it, but it was a big number of things that accomplished, and I was really proud to be a part of it. Of course, I'm on there with some of the best singers on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. With T. Graham, of course, he's right there at the top as far as I'm concerned, and one of my best friends in the whole world. I love him so much. And Marty Rabin, who's back with Shenandoah now. They got Shenandoah together. They're out there going gangbusters. Trace Adkins, of course, he's a monumental, a legend.
Right.
And it was truly an honor to get to do that with them, and I had a great time with them. The other night we just did a benefit, and with John Berry. You know, John Berry's been struggling with cancer, and there was such a great turnout. We got up and did that song. It was a lot of fun. You know, everybody had a great time doing it. But to do something with these guys for such a great cause, it meant a lot to me that I was able to be a part of that.
T had told me recently, and I can't remember the number, unfortunately. My mind's going blank on me again, but of how many churches that project has created to be built.
Right.
And it's amazing, and you know,
all over the world, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, I forgot it was just some amount of number that you think, and for everybody to pitch in and help on that.
Right. Well, we all, you know, got to kind of give a song to that project. Mine was a song called "On the Other Side," which was inspired, you know, a lot of dreaming about my dad after he passed away and things like that. But that song was a powerful song for me for a lot of reasons, and I was glad to have that song as part of it too.
Right, and you know, I know in 2000, I think it was 15, that you worked with the Gaithers music group.
Right.
On Hits and Hymns, I believe it was.
Hits and Hymns.
But that was like the #1 video on Billboard.
It was #1 video on Billboard, and it was It entered the charts, in country charts, at number 10, and that was pretty neat. And it was on the contemporary Christian charts for a number of weeks at number 6. And so that was it. Really, of course, when you have a vehicle like Bill Gaither, that behind you, I mean, that's like putting on the jets of, you know, like you got. To me, I had a 747 sitting there, but I had a Briggs and Stratton engine trying to run it, you know, because what you're trying to do to get things out there, you know. But when he comes along, he's like strapping some engines on there, and okay, we can go now because it can get it out to the people.
Bill is amazing.
He's done a lot for a lot of people, and you know, for him to believe in me, and then let me come on to do Hits and Hymns, and then I did another project called the Classics, which I went back and did a lot of old, it was country and some rock and pop songs kind of album. I got to do that basically for the fun of it, just to put out there, my kids have something to listen to one day and say, "Oh, my daddy used to do that."
Used to do that song.
The songs that I grew up on, you know, from Eddie Arnold, you know, "Make the World Go Away," sitting in my dad's car in a '56 Plymouth on a summer night with the lightning bugs and the crickets, and that's the first music that I ever heard, that I was introduced to. Turned that radio on and was listening to that, and like Jim Reeves, you know, I didn't have that song on there, but put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone.
That's
that's
music to me.
Oh, I love those. I love those songs.
That's what I grew up on. And I was telling you, you know, we do a lot with the older, I call the older country music artists, and that what I grew up on, and those traditional songs are just you never get tired of it. You never get tired. And talking about Gaither though, you've got a new project out.
Yeah, my new projects, the other ones have done so well, and of course in Cracker Barrel, and in all the markets that are out there, Walmarts, Targets, and Christian bookstores that are out there. He wanted me to do another project, and so this project is called God and Country. And I'm really proud of it, because it was kind of an emotional journey for me doing this project, because a lot of it's, you know, patriotic songs and songs about kind of where our country is today, and going back and kind of bringing these songs, like, you know, the Battle of New Orleans, you know, that that's an old Johnny Horton song, I think it was written by a guy named Jimmy Driftwood, wrote that song.
I think so.
And I love doing it because we got a great cut on it. Ben Isaacs produced the record. Ben Isaacs is one of the absolute best at producing. I just love him so much, and he's done a wonderful job for me. But we did like that song right there, and it just kind of breathes new life into an older song. I don't know anybody that's cutting that song today, but we went back and cut it, and you know, like God Bless America, and songs like that are on there, and also some older hymns that songs that my mom used to sing to me. And then there's Bill and Gloria Gaither, Because He Lives. You know,
Oh,
that's
amazing!
one of those timeless, beautiful songs that I remember when it first came out. I did that song and learned it, and I get to put it on this project. And then songs like "It Is Well With My Soul," which is a powerful, powerful song. It got to be emotional to me because I remember I did a song on there called "It's No Secret What God Can Do."
Right.
The same time, the Statler brothers, when Lou DeWitt heard me sing that Thanksgiving, night before Thanksgiving, the next morning I showed up at my mom's, and I had been pretty sick, and I'd been working really hard. I wanted to get some of that good food Mama used to make on Thanksgiving, and I walked through the door, and my mama said, "Jimmy, man, I'm worried about you, son. You really look like you're not doing well." And I was in a bad place, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Really, I was in a pretty rough place in my life, and I told my mom. I said, I know that, Mom, but. And for some reason I told her, I said, "Mom, I think something really good is going to happen for me." I told her that to make her quit worrying.
Right.
But she sat down and we talked, and she came over and put her hands on my shoulders, and she started singing, "It is no secret what God can do." We sang that song together, sitting there at the table, and it was a magical moment. And I got wrapped up in all that, in doing this project, and I got to crying, and I got so into it, and and I couldn't hardly sing. And you can hear it in the songs that you can hear I've been crying because it just was so emotional to me, and it was so much went into it because of the love that I know my mom gave me, and the prayers that so much were answered through the years. And the patriotic songs were about where our country is today. I'm so concerned about our country, and I'm so proud to be, I'm proud to be an American. I really am, and I don't want to lose that, and I don't want to lose the fact that God, our faith and our trust in God built this country. There's a song in there called "In God We Trust." That's a very powerful song that I don't like to beat people over the head with it, but I don't want people to forget that this country was built on that.
Preparing for this interview, I have had a chance to review some of the songs on there and look at the list of the songs that's on the on the upcoming album. And you think, or I thought, if I was going to do a gospel album, the songs that I would want are these songs.
Right, in the garden, and
it's
that's one of the songs that I remember so well, doing in churches and everything. There's a new song on there that I wrote with a friend of mine, my neighbor actually, Dave Clark, who's written a lot of number one gospel Christian songs. We wrote a song called "Meet Me at Arlington," and that song is a really powerful song, and it's a true song. It's about, basically, he saw on the news, this lady that had watched the news, and her son was in this particular thing that he had wore a Marine shirt to school, and this happened out in California, and the teacher got to putting him down because he wore it. Well, his father had been lost, and his brother, and he said he wanted to be a Marine. When he got out of school, this teacher was really putting him down because he wanted to do that. He thought it was stupid. He thought this, that, and the other. This was on TV. Well, this mother, they asked the mother about how she felt about it. And she didn't get mad or anything. She said, "I just don't think people understand sometimes." He said, "But I wish he could meet me at Arlington."
Yeah.
And when he told me about that, we saw the clip and everything. I said, "We got to write that song." And we did. We immediately wrote it before it got out of our hearts and our minds,
I have heard, like I said, that preparing for this. And that's one of them songs that, the mama would say, "Well, don't talk about it until you meet me. Let me show you."
Meet me at Arlington. Let me introduce you to my son.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just, that is powerful.
Well, it is, and it's not mean-spirited or anything like that. It's not meant to be. It's just meant to be an understanding. Let's try to have some understanding.
Right.
Let's try not to be so when some person feels a certain way, not lift our chest up and go up against them like in hatred, and let's listen to what they have to say. Okay, you feel the way you do. This is the way I feel.
Right.
And let's be like Americans are supposed to be. We're supposed to work together. We're supposed to love each other, not hate each other. And, you know.
You know, I have a friend that you have worked with in the past also, that you, just talking to you today, and we have met previously. I was telling your wife earlier, and you may not remember, but we were backstage at the Opry, and it was, you know, you're one of these people that just, I believe, that treats everybody the way you want to be treated.
Well, that's the way I live, yeah.
Lee, a friend of mine named Lee, that's an artist, that was on a show with you and T one time, and he told me, he said, you know, I worked a show one time with T, and Jimmy was on that show, and he said, you know, and Jimmy's the coolest cat alive, because he said he treated me like I was somebody, you know. And I said, that's Jimmy. And you know, I looked, when we were trying to set this interview up, I of course looked schedule to see what the schedules are, and man, your schedule is just, I believe you're probably leaving out tomorrow, you know.
Well, it's, you know, I thank God for the work, and my prayer is that I can hold up under everything that I have to do. Because let's face it, I am getting older, but you know, God has allowed me to do it, and we're adding on dates, we're building, you know, and I'm glad we're not going back the other way. You know,
Right.
we're in the process of we're having some growing pains, you know, but that's the way it is. And I have no idea where this is going to take me, or where it's going to end up. I just know that you know, that I have a message, and it's a positive message. It's not a negative message.
I believe you're very powerful. Your voice is, your music touches people, and I mean,
Thank you, Ron.
I think we need that, you know.
We need positive influences in our world today, and it needs to be real. It needs to be, because, you know, I had a guy come through my line, only one time I did a song called In God We Trust, and I did it in a place where, you know, it might not have gone over very good, but I did it. And this guy waited in line, and at the end, and he said, you know, I don't really believe that, and I don't think you should have that song in your show. He said, I think it's wrong, especially in this place. I said, well, you know what, sir? I said, I respect you and what you believe, that's fine. But I said, if I go to a show or turn the radio on and I hear someone use foul language, use God's name in vain, and they're talking about that, and it's on the radio, and nobody's saying anything about it, if I can't talk about God in a positive way, something's very wrong with this country.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
Very wrong.
And I said, you need to think about that. And he said, well, I just thought I'd tell you. I said, well, I thought I'd tell you too.
Yeah.
I said, as long as I'm on stage, anywhere in this country, I am going to put God first. And God and family and my country. That's the way it is.
I've had people ask me over the years, and I've done it recently with can you mix a gospel group with a country group in the same show? And some gospel people say, no, that's just, you know, my theory is, and I have told a great friend of mine that's like a daddy to me, he questioned that for years, because earlier in his lifetime, he was honky tonks and bars, and he played and then when he gave his life to God, it was away from all
Totally,
that.
yeah.
And, you know, of course, I believe that, we've had this conversation with me and him as numerous times. I don't believe, as long as the artists are similar in nature, I guess, as long as you blend.
Right.
You know, if you're on stage in a country concert and you've got a gospel song, there's people out there that may need to hear that.
Well, I had this conversation with my pastor, and I go to First Baptist Hendersonville, and Pastor Glenn Weiss was pastor then. He since passed away. But I wanted to join the church, and I had some questions about me, you know, doing gospel music, and I'm also in country music. And he came to my house to sit down with me, and he sat down, and he was the nicest person. I loved him so much. And I asked him, I said, you know, I'm concerned about it. I don't want to make people mad. I don't want to upset the gospel industry, and I don't want to. I said, but I found that I can do gospel music and country music. They accept it. But if I do anything country and gospel, they won't accept it. You know, most of them won't. Some of them will. And he said, Jimmy, he said, look, he said, you can come to church and sing. We do, we have the choir, and I get up and I preach. He said, but most of my ministry is on the inside of those walls. He said, you have the opportunity to reach people on the outside of these walls. Out there that are in the country that need to hear about God, whatever it takes. And he said, you keep doing what you're doing, son. He said, I love you. God loves you. He knows you're doing the right thing. And he said, people can be so heavenly bound that they're no earthly good.
That's
And I thought, what a statement. He told me that.
Amazing, yeah.
And he said, what I mean by that, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean it in, when Jesus came to this planet, when he came to this earth, he didn't have his eyes fixed on just the people at the churches, just the people that who are holier than thou, just those people that were high and mighty. He went to the people that were sick and shut in, and those that were just, and the downtrodden and the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
He went into it, and he went and took the message, and he took that example to those people. And he said, that's what we have to do as Christians. You can't turn away from those who may not be, people look down on them and everything but you can't look down on those people. You have to go out there and you have to reach those people. So I've been to places where, in bars and everything, and saying, I don't do anything in a negative way at all.
Right.
It's all positive. But I've been into bars and things and done How Great Thou Art, and people come up crying,
tears crying,
and
yeah.
saying, that song touched me. I'm going to I'm going to start living right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit drinking. And whether they do or not, I don't know.
Right.
But it's something that touches those people that they need to hear. It may turn them.
And there's no place that you can't do a gospel.
No.
No. I believe that you can mix gospel with anything you want to mix.
I can take it out there, and I can take, if I'm doing country songs, I might do Flowers on the Wall,
right.
and Elizabeth and all that, and My Only Love, and but I can do country in there, and country people love it.
Right.
They love it. They actually love it more because I usually finish up with a big gospel segment, in my show, and it has not. It's just a very, very positive thing. But now, if you go, some churches will say, hey, I want you to do Elizabeth because that's such a big song. I really want you to do it. Most churches say that.
Right.
We don't want you to come and do it unless you're going to do that. And which I understand. There might be some songs that I wouldn't do, but most of my songs I can do in a church.
Right. It's like someone I'm sure you're friends with, probably, Jason Cramp. I mean, a lot of Jason's songs can be done anywhere.
Right.
Right. And
he's one of the greatest.
Well, I think the world of Jason, and but I think that there's gospel. I mean, you got an audience. That's what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if it touches one person, there again, that's one more. But we're gonna get ready to close out. But let me ask you one other question. What advice would you give someone now coming to Nashville compared to when you came? That want to make it as a artist or writer? What would you give advice-wise?
Well, when the Statler Brothers retired, I thought maybe I could make it work, from where I was up in Virginia. And I had lost that vehicle of the Statler Brothers, basically. And I was driving back and forth to Nashville, and when I'd come here, I had so many things to do, try to plant little seeds and do things. And it was just getting hard to drive back and forth. And if somebody called me to do the Opry, I've got to go 500 miles, I've got to plan this, I can't just drop everything and bam. And then I said, I really prayed about it, and it was like I had to talk with God out on my tractor one day. I built this beautiful home up there. It was my forever place. This was a place I wanted to stay the rest of my life. And God said, Jimmy, you got to go. I mean, I heard him say it just like, and I said, no, I ain't leaving this place. No way. I argued with God on that tractor, and he just kept saying, no, you got to let it go. Got to let it go. I told my wife, I went to the house, and I immediately told her, and she said, well, she said, I don't want to sell this place. I said, I know, but I said, I'm just going to throw a big old price out there, and I said, if it brings it, I'll know that's what God meant to happen, but if it don't, then it's sold in 4 days.
So you knew you better.
And so I said, well, I got to go to Nashville. So I tell people, you know, if you're serious about it and you want to do it, you got to be around. I consider Nashville to have the best songwriters in the world, the best musicians, the best singers, the best entertainers, anywhere, and everything is here. It's
Right.
here. And so I tell people, I mean, I've even had people, some of them were in the rock industry, I said, well, you need to go to LA because
Right.
this is what, and they've done it, and they've done well, and they've made it, you know, they've been with some great artists, and become great artists themselves. And so when I come here, my daddy used to say, son, you got to surround yourself with people that are better than you. And there's so many people that are so much better than I am here. I mean, these musicians, these young kids are coming to town, and they're just dynamite musicians. And believe it or not, I mean, there's some good kids coming to this town. There's good hearts, who are big believers, who love the Lord, who love music, who just want to be a part of it.
Right.
And I've been able to take some of these kids on the road with me, and some of them have moved through me to other bigger acts, you know, from me to Carrie Underwood, to Blake Shelton, to Darius Rucker, to Alan Jackson.
Right.
They kind of go on the road with me, and I kind of help prepare them for that. And that's kind of what my mission has been. But I get to share the stage with some of these kids that are some of the greatest musicians and singers in the world.
Right.
And I learn from them, and they teach me, and I hopefully give them good advice to carry them on. And I'm so proud of them when I see them on stage with these big acts. I'm so proud of them.
Right. And they, you know, they're lucky to have Tutelage or somebody to give them some information and learn from the mistakes you made. And
yeah, right.
you know, it's like though from Virginia to here and going back and forth like you were talking about. It'd be one of those things I would think that by the time you got here or got back home, somebody'd be calling you, just turn around and come right back here.
Oh, I was wearing it out. I was wearing the road out. And I still have a lot of family up there, so I still go back quite a bit to see my family, my children, and my brothers and sisters, and my grandkids. But you know, it's the entertainment business. This business comes at a lot of sacrifice. It comes at a high price sometimes, and my family has I don't want to say they've reaped the benefits, but they've also suffered for it, because when you make that dedication, you're making a dedication to the people that are wanting to hear your music with the message that you have. And your family has to sit back sometimes and say, I've seen with my kids,
Right.
some of my grandchildren, you know, I'm hugging on somebody else's little girl, little boy, and I'm taking pictures with them, and they're sitting in the background going, man, that's my dad, or that's my granddad, and you know, how come he's doing that with them? And I've seen it. I didn't realize it till I saw pictures later on, and I told my kids when we were inducted to the Hall of Fame, I said, look, you sometimes sit in the background and watched me, you know, give my time and love to other people, and I said, I want you to know that it's not that way. You've never been in the background. You've always been in the forefront in my heart and my life. I love you. There's nothing like you, and there never will be. And I want them to know that I love them so much. But thank them for letting me do what I have to do.
Right.
And I feel like it's my job and my responsibility. But I think my children, my grandchildren, I know that they'll see it one day.
And I'm sure they will, and I'm sure that they know that it's you doing what you believe that you're led to do, and
Right.
you're taking care of them as well.
Right.
Jimmy, if people want to order your music or find out your schedule, can you tell them where they can do that?
Go.
Okay. Well, you can find my music and my schedule, my touring schedule, on jimmyfortune.com. That's www.jimmyfortune.com. And all the information will be on there. Tell you where to go to order the CDs. Some of them are going to be in Cracker Barrel. Some of the first few months will be in Cracker Barrel only, exclusive. So you can get them there as well. And people are already starting to order. I think you can order through Bill Gaither's Bill Gaither Music Group and .com.